The future of video games is coming in 2016, Mike Mahardy, Eric Tay. And it is in the form of a pair of glasses that you strap to your face. These glasses aren't going to be cheap. They're going to cost you $600. But what price could you put on an experience like being able to digitally jelk in the comfort of your own home? To put those glasses on and live in a virtual world. What's the price? It's $600. $600 too much for an Oculus Rift? We got the I guess the consumer version is finally out, because we've had the DK1s, DK2s and stuff dropping in and out, and they've been kind of open for pre-order publicly, kind of developers, but like we got them. But this is the one that's kind of like, all right, this is for the public. $600, a lot more if you're in Canada, a lot more if you're in Europe. It's actually a bit closer to $700 if you put tax and shipping, at least for us in California. Too much for you, Eric Tay?
Too much. I don't know. It's weird. Like the last time I paid $600 for a piece of hardware was the PS3, and man, did I regret that.
Did you buy a PC recently?
No, I haven't. But that is more than $600. Yes, fine, fair. Which you're gonna need some type of probably good graphics card to go with your Oculus.
You need 3 USB 3.0 ports, I think, as well. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's easy.
Lot, That's my MacBook Airs out.
But 600 is a bit much for me. It's the most expensive, like I think, like peripheral or like add-on type of hardware.
That's the thing though. Like, is it a peripheral? Like, is this thing a peripheral? Because it's not like a Kinect or a PlayStation Move. Like, it's a platform all on its own, Mike.
Right. Yeah. I think by technical definition, it is labeled a peripheral, but it very much is this. As a person who's been positive on VR for a long time, like a believer ever since I played, that one game that seems, everybody has that one game that turned them, but it seems I think it could be a contender in like the living room lineup eventually, maybe like end of 2017, I think I said, or something. But right now it is, like Tay said, I think it's a little too expensive for me. I get why they're doing it. Like, I think you could talk a little more about, why they need to do this, because they don't have a huge software lineup yet that could, bring back their investment. But I won't be paying $600 for it right away. I would be waiting for a price, like a drop later on, especially because that, like, back in 2006, that was the cost of an entire platform from Sony.
Yeah, but that was 2006, so that money is now like, let's adjust that bad boy for inflation, and you're talking about like over 1,000 or so. So they're not making any money off of it. Palmer Luckey was on Twitter today, sort of shouting that out. He's very excited about it. The price, I feel like it's like too much for me. Like, I was willing, it was my birthday yesterday, so I was thinking, you know what, from me to me, I might like get one of these. If it's around 400 mark, probably 500, I have to think about it. Then when it said 600, I was going like, nah, that's a little bit too much. But I kind of prefer that to the alternative, which is that they release this piece of kit for like $350, $400, and it's like this nerfed piece of technology. Because, like, if you look at this, and it's kind of different for us in the world, because you bring up the PlayStation, right, which is exactly the first delta someone's going to think of in like the video games world, and people who watch this are going to be fans of video games and play video games, and they think on those terms. But if you think about stuff like iPads or like iPods, even iPhones especially, like consumer technology that gets really expensive, like it starts expensive and our perception of how much it should cost is around here, and then after a while they kind of find this like equilibrium where people are willing to spend more because they hear it's a good experience and there's more software for it, after a year or two that feels, and then like the cost gets a little bit lower because they figured out the production change and stuff, and then eventually we'll kind of get there. So like, to me, this feels like iPad version 1 or like iWatch or Apple Watch or like shit like that, right? Where it's like,
is that fair though? Like, I feel like I was having this conversation with Mary earlier because she was like, what could I do with $600 just so I can do these like newsy type jokes?
Right.
And I was like, well, yeah, what about a phone and this and that? And then I started thinking, well, on the flip side of that, yeah, these are the same costs. iPad, iPhone, they're the same cost, but you use your phone all the time. Like, well, I wouldn't say all the time, but you use it a good amount of time in the day, every day, right?
Yeah, and anywhere.
Anywhere. And the Oculus, I kind of understand why it's so expensive. But, you have all these other hardware options that you can do, that you can buy, that are, that you said, of course, equate in cost. And like, I would use that all the time. Like, I can use my iPad to surf the web. I can do this, I can do that. Like my Oculus, like, I guess it's for this one or two, or like eValkyrie, because that was a good demo. But like, oh, okay.
Well, it's like, I guess, when those first, like the Apple Watch is like a good sort of example of it. Doesn't really do all that much, but certain people find like really good use cases for that, like people who can't have their phones in work, or people who, you know, want to do a lot more fitness, like use their iPhones for training more than they did Twitter. You know, it kind of works out that they're like specific use cases. So I feel like maybe the Oculus, like we're literally talking about a new frontier in entertainment. Like it's untreaded ground. So like it should cost a shit ton of money. It should be this like weird, like think about what it was 4 years ago when you had to, like, it looked like shit. It didn't really work. The tech cost a fortune. Yeah. Like we were talking about setting up rooms with like those little roller like pad areas. Like we're kind of, it's already, because the fact that I feel like the fact that it's under $1,000 is already kind of amazing. Somebody on Twitter earlier today was telling me they were using like CAD, you know, computer aided drawing or whatever, like CAD software in VR, and they had like this unit which was worth $50,000 because that's what like industry stuff costs, and it's like not as good as Oculus. Like, so I think that like we have something that's $600 that's like as good as the Oculus Rift is, because the Oculus Rift is fucking really good. Yeah. It's kind of cool. It's like, I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing that we have that. It's just, when we think about it in video game terms, it's difficult, especially when you look at the software. Because like you said, like Valkyrie, like name another big games coming out on Oculus.
What are the other big games?
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Because there's some games, there's like loads of stuff that have it. Like there's that Rhombus and Rune thing, the Psychonauts thing.
Dreams is that'll be Sony VR, but like in terms of VR.
That's the thing, because we've got a lot of Sony VR stuff fresh in our heads. We've got the London High stuff, Ace Combat 7, of course 100-foot robot golf, Res Infinite. So all that stuff is Sony VR. But then like, you know, Job Simulator, me and Andy played at the PlayStation Experience as well. That's also going to come out on Oculus. So like a lot of these are coming out on Oculus. Actually, I think 100-foot robot golf is coming out on Oculus as well.
The Climb.
Actually, I don't even think that's a Morpheus only game now that I think about it. The Climb?
Yeah, it was this thing. I did like a rock climbing game recently.
Oh, really?
I went to an event. They didn't tell me it was going to be a rock climbing game, and I'm petrified of heights. And they didn't tell me it. And I put on the goggles and the glasses, and it's VR, so it's going to like trigger that shaky legs sweating. I was drenched by the end of it. It was terrifying.
Isn't it amazing it did scare you?
That was the thing. It felt like such a real sensation. I had the same symptoms I do if I was standing on the edge of a building, you know, not that I do that often, but it's still like it triggered it. Like I go rock climbing. I specifically did it to get over a fear of heights.
Oh, really?
Clearly I haven't yet, but it's still, that's why I'm like such an optimist about VR, but like you said, it's so hard to compare it to anything else that has happened in video games in a while, because, you know, like we keep talking about consoles, but PS4, the price was a big deal, but it's still like, we know we're eventually going to get it. It's an established thing. It's
and like, let's be honest, the
iteration.
PlayStation 4 is $350 now, and it is fucking nowhere near as good as PCs are already.
Right.
So like, those consoles were cheap when they came out for a reason.
Yeah.
Like the Xbox One is done. Like in terms of like its power, it's done. PS4 right behind it. Like if last year was like a damning indictment of the power of those consoles in comparison to PC, because we already had stuff looking so much better, like within 24 months. Yeah. So like, I don't know, technology costs, man. Costs good money.
I'm just worried because, like, again, I do understand the cost, but that price point puts it at a point where even you, who was interested in buying it, right, aren't going to buy it. So you're looking at enthusiasts, people that have the money to spend. Or if you're lucky enough to kickstart and fund it in the beginning, you're actually getting it for half off.
Oh, cool.
I think if you kickstarted it, because Palmer came out yesterday, I think, and said, you know, if you kickstarted and got the DK1, you're getting it for free.
Wow.
So I think it was only $300 to get into it. So now you're getting it half off. So kudos to those people that got in early.
Is Peter Brown on that?
I have no idea.
He's at CS at the moment. Maybe.
He's our VR guy.
Yeah.
He's the one to
brushed Palmer's hand.
But anyways, yeah, like at this price point, it's like, I'm afraid. Like I'm slightly afraid. Like, I know they got a lot of money behind it, you know, so it's going to be fine for a couple of years, but at what point is there enough people wanting to, you know, buy it? Is it when the applications come out, when the price drop comes out, you know, like, does that tempt us to buy it then? That's kind of like the slight barrier of entry, and that's kind of the fear, right? Yeah. Because if people can't get it into their hands and experience it, which is like something Peter keeps hearkening, right? Like, he can't
totally.
explain
I know what you were
you.
saying earlier. Yeah. The minute you try, when I did the Oculus Touch thing, with the control, that was like the single most crazy demo I've ever done in my entire life. That was like some fucking Blade Runner shit, or like Lawnmower Man shit. That was insane. I was like, I was talking to people last night about it, like, and this is like months later. So yeah, it's like, it's that type of thing. It's like, so it's just a shame that you're right, that it's that much. Because I was like willing to go out in a limb and like spend outside my budget just to get one, just to secure. Because then I'd be like in April, I'd be like, hey, I was saving money up until April. It's like, but even that was too much for me.
It's got such a weird, like, kind of double-sided challenge to confront. You know, you have to get it into the public's hands, but you need to cost enough that it's not going to be a complete loss.
So could you say the same thing about iPads and iPhones, though?
Yeah, obviously, like if you're comparing the abilities of the two things, it's not going to be a good comparison.
But in terms of like selling to the public,
that's I'm not like completely business minded, but I see why it's a little pricier than we might think. I was thinking it might be somewhere around 500, and then I saw other people saying 700, which it kind of is 700 with taxes, like you said, at least here, but. It's just they have to, get it in. The public awareness is there, I think, especially like, because, part of our job is to try to tell people the people, I don't know, like the optimists of VR, like it's worth trying, but, they still have to mount that hurdle of actually getting it out there. And it's such a weird, what do we price it in order to do that? But also like, not to just tank right away.
And they're not earning money off it. So you got to say if they're doing any less, they'd be taking a loss. Right. And people are going to say, oh, you should take a loss on it so that it gets some people, because this is like for VR. But I don't know. I think 2016, where we're always talking about 2016 as like the year of VR. Like 2016 is probably going to be the year of like VR early adoption. Like 2017 hopefully will be the year of VR when everyone starts getting into it. But like, it's going to be interesting. It's good. It's good that we are, what are we? Today is the 6th of January and we've already had a price on Oculus. So the wheels are turning. So VR is happening, and it's happening pretty soon. As long as you can afford it. Eric Tay, Mike Mahardy, thanks so much for coming on and talking about virtual reality. Let us know what you think about VR in the comments below. Is 600 bones or 700 if you're paying taxes? Are there many states that don't pay taxes on technology?
Portland
is
there?
Oregon?
I'm about to go there.
Fucking lot of shit going on in Oregon right now
not Oregon.
that they don't want to do.
They could probably use some VR right now. They're bored up there.
I know.
Hanging around that.
Federal reserves or whatever, federal land. Let's not get into
We need food and
comment
snacks
section is
and
like
VR.
descending into madness already. We almost got to. Let us know what you think of how much Oculus should cost, or whether or not you're happy it costs so much, or whether you wish it was cheaper, or are you just happy to play it maybe in version 2 comes out next year. Let us know in the comments below.